All right, this is Math 101, finishing off section 10.5. So we're going to talk about function notation, where we're going to replace the variable y with a variable in parentheses and x. So you want to think of a function as like a machine, okay? So we've got this machine here that looks like this, and we are going to input an x value here, and we're going to do our calculation. This is our equation here, and then we're going to output our y value, but instead of writing y, we're going to write f of x, okay? So we say that the variable x is the independent variable, okay? Because any value can be assigned to it. It stands alone. But once you choose your x value, the y value is going to be dependent on whatever the x is, okay? So our function notation looks like this, f of x, and that's how we read it, okay? So instead of writing y equals 2x plus 1, we're now going to write f of x is equal to 2x plus 1. So in other words, y is the same thing as f of x, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to substitute in our x value, do our calculation, and get our y value. And what that creates is an ordered pair. So this right here is my x value. So when I calculate g of 3 using this function, I'm going to take 3 times 3 and subtract 2, which is 9 minus 2, which gives me 7. So if I were to write my ordered pair, x is 3 and y, the output, would be 7. So remember, x is the input and y is our output. Okay? So g of negative 2 is 3 times negative 2 minus 2, which is negative 6 minus 2, which is negative 8. So the ordered pair would be negative 2 for x and negative 8 for y. And then the last one, g of 0, 3 times 0 minus 2 is just negative 2. So the ordered pair would be 0, negative 2. Okay, going to the other side, we now have a different function. F of x is 4x plus 5, and we're going to insert f of negative 2, which is 4 times negative 2 plus 5, which is negative 8 plus 5, which is negative 3. So our ordered pair would be negative 2, negative 3. F of 0 is 4 times 0 plus 5, which is 0 plus 5, which is 5. So the ordered pair would be 0 and 5. And then last, 4 times 3 plus 5 is 12 plus 5, or 17. So 3 is our input, 17 is our output. All right, so we can do the same thing for nonlinear functions. And remember, nonlinear functions just mean that it's not a line. And so you will learn that a quadratic equation looks like what we call a parabola. And a cubic function looks like kind of an S, is what we're looking at, okay? So we're going to just do the same thing. We just have to replace our input value. Our x is 4, and we're going to replace it into this function. So we are going to do 4 squared minus 3 times 4 plus 2. So 16 minus 12 plus 2. So 16 minus 12 is 4, plus 2 is 6. So our ordered pair would be 4, 6. Substituting in 0, 0 squared minus 3 times 0 plus 2. Well, this is 0, this is 0, so we get 2. So 0, 2. And then the last one, be careful because this is a negative that you square and it needs to be in parentheses. So that becomes positive 9. That becomes positive 9 plus 2, and that becomes 20. So negative 3 and 20 would be your output. All right, in a cubic function, we are going to do 1 and cube it minus 2 times 1 plus 5. So 1 minus 2 plus 5 is negative 1 plus 5, which is 4. So ordered pair would be 1, 4. 0 cubed minus 2 times 0 plus 5. That goes, and I get 5. And then negative 3 cubed minus 2 times negative 3 plus 5. And that is 27 plus 6 plus 5, which is 38. So negative 3 and 38. All right, so now we're going to be looking at a graph, and they're going to want you to find the value of the given x input. Okay, so remember, negative 2 is your x value. Okay, so you go on your x axis and you find negative 2, and then you're going to draw a line to where it hits the graph. And so your y would be 4. Okay, so that creates the ordered pair of negative 2, 4 on the graph. Okay, when x is 0, okay, so here's x is 0, you're going to have to go until it hits the graph, and y is 1. And when x is 3, here's x is 3, you're going to have to go until it hits the graph, and y is negative 5. So I believe you have one of those last question. That's what it's looking for, to evaluate the function from a given graph. You find the x value, and then you match it up on the y where it hits the location of your graph. Okay. So again, this is another opportunity to practice this. X is 4, so we're going to come over here. X is 4, and you're going to draw a line until you hit that graph. And so y, the output, would be negative 5. Okay? When x is negative 4, here's negative 4 on the x, and you draw. And so you can see that y is negative 2. And then when x is negative 2, there's negative 2, and you draw, and you can see that y is negative 1. And I think that finishes up 10.5.